Hey, it's Bob Simon taking a break to tell you about CallRail. CallRail is a product that my firm uses, and what CallRail does is it plugs into your phone calls with your intake and with your clients to record those phone calls as real-time transcripts so you can get intelligence, and with the Attorney Share plugin, you can actually, in real time, be able to send a referral out through the marketplace to find the best match, all made possible with CallRail being plugged into your firm's intake with real intelligence. CallRail. Welcome to this episode of the Justice Team podcast on the Justice Team Network. I'm your host, Bob Simon, and today we have on the Justice Team's partner, trial lawyer, civil advocate. I mean, you're like everything. Mentor, Robbie Munoz.
Thank you very much, Bob. Just trying to juggle it all and keep it all in the air. But yeah, been busy and a lot of good things coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so some of the things we're going to cover with today is Robbie's been working on with the family of an individual, an undocumented immigrant that was a worker that while he was there just to work, cannabis farm got raided. He wasn't supposed to be there that day. Yep. He ended up dying.
Yeah. And
you want to tell us about Jaime a little bit? We'll talk about this in this episode, and we're also going to cover Robbie's in the living room a lot with folks that unfortunately suffered a wrongful death, something they didn't anticipate. I was going to have to walk you through all the stuff that you have to be ready to deal with.
Yeah. So we do represent the family of Jaime Alanis. Jaime, as Bob mentioned, was working at a cannabis farm, just kind of going about his daily work. There's also a tomato farm that he used to work at that's connected to this cannabis farm. But while he's working, ICE comes onto the premises, kind of causes pandemonium, causes panic. People are, very scared. And Jaime, at a certain point, ends up on top of a roof. And there's been, and this will take some time, it'll eventually come out, there has been some inaccurate facts about what he was doing.
And those are things that we will find. I mean, there's a warrant that was issued.
Right.
It has to be judicial warrant signed by a judge for specific reasons. Under the 14th Amendment, you can't just do it because people are brown or speak Spanish,
right.
Equal Protections Clause. And then under the Fourth Amendment, you have to do things by executing that warrant, right? You have to have probable cause, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see that. And also they're supposed to have cameras there, body cam cameras. So you should be able to get all this information, right?
Right. We should have a good idea once we start putting these pieces together. And that's, in a case like this, that's the foundation, right? Is trying to figure out, what camera footage is there? What angles are those cameras positioned at? Did they capture the incident occurring? Eyewitness testimony. Here it's a little bit more complicated because, the locations of everyone since that raid, not as easy as going down the street or next door.
I think they took 320 some people.
Yeah, it was like right under 350.
Wow.
350 people. Yeah, that were just uprooted that day. Jaime unfortunately did not make it out of that incident, out of that raid. Shortly after that, his family decided that it was time to take him off life support. But we're working really fast. We're laying the foundation, trying to put the pieces together, really to try to give answers to this family, to try to give this family some sense of understanding, of peace in knowing exactly how this all occurred, and then hopefully justice, right? If there's a path forward to find justice, that's our goal. If something went wrong, if something was done improperly, that needs to be brought out, that needs to come to light, and the perpetrators, whoever did something wrong, they need to be held accountable. This is a case that's kind of easily summarized by saying someone lost their life. Someone's got to answer for it.
Yeah, in a situation like this, you want to make sure it doesn't happen again. And people on both sides are protected, right? You want to protect folks that are executing, hopefully, a valid warrant for valid reasons, if that's the way, and for the people that are there on the other side, right? This shouldn't happen. And I can't recall ever seeing another human being lose their life under a circumstance like this.
Yeah, it was, from all accounts right now, and again, we're still investigating, but from all accounts, it seemed like this whole process, the execution of the warrant, this raid, it was pandemonium. You know, it was a lot of fear. There was a lot of uncertainty on that premises when this was happening. And you had, you know, a lot of folks just in fear, you know, scared.
And you see, like I was thinking about this today. Like if somebody came into my house and said, like, we're taking you or grabbing your children and we're with the U.S. government, like, how do I know that? Like,
Yeah.
And how do I see a warrant? Like,
Yeah.
and there were some videos that were posted on social media where a civilian that was working, there's actually an active military, was one of the security guards there,
Right.
was on video asking for the warrant. They wouldn't show him the warrant. And,
Yep.
and he got detained.
Yeah.
I mean, American citizen.
Yeah. We're seeing
Insane.
This is like, I think this is part of the reason why we feel so passionately about these cases, is because you've had just, you know, numerous videos that are being circulated online right now. You can see them anywhere. You can just pull them up. You've got people in masks that are showing up masks that are showing up to different places and pulling people and grabbing them, putting them in vehicles. No identification, no information. You have people all over trying to be a voice to those being grabbed and taken, and they're not getting answers. I mean, this is really scary stuff. And for me specifically, you know, it strikes home. I grew up in Santa Ana, and you know, a lot of people don't know what Santa Ana is or where it is, but you know, Santa Ana is it's home to my family, and my community in Santa Ana is largely Latino. It is you know, a lot of immigrants, and what really hit me was, you know, so I grew up boxing in Santa Ana, as you know, and we've got a local boxing club that's done tremendous work in this community, and it has been a safe haven for kids for the last 30 years, trying to prevent gang violence, gang involvement. When you've got kids who are now afraid to show up to their boxing club, their after-school boxing club, because they don't know what's going to happen, and you've got parents who won't drive them to the gym, now you're looking at a ripple effect in the community, right? You're looking at, this has long-term ramifications. You're taking away opportunities for kids to feel safe, for kids to engage in things that are keeping them out of more troublesome issues. So that really struck home for me, because that's directly related to me. I was getting phone calls from the club.
And if you go to any of the, you know, swap beats or any local things, like, it's sad because nobody comes. They're afraid.
Right.
And it's just, it has that, people don't feel safe, and then people aren't supporting local businesses because they're not out shopping. They're afraid to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I know people that are here legally, have a legal status, and they're afraid to do anything because of their skin color or because of the way that they speak English. They have an accent. They're afraid.
And you know, this is why I've always been such a big advocate of history. And we've seen a little bit of an assault on history at times, but I think it's really important. And the Mendez Westminster case is something that I teach to high school students through ABOTA, actually. I teach it every couple months. There's a lesson that we share with, you know, probably 50 to 100 high school students, and we talk about segregation in Orange County and how ending segregation in Orange County was the precursor to Brown v. Board, and how important that landmark first case was, Mendez v. Westminster, and then obviously how important Brown v. Board is. But I say that because you're seeing, to some extent, a repetition, right? You're seeing certain themes come back to life here when we're going after folks based on skin color, you know, origin, national origin, language. So it is scary, but the more we can teach other people, the more we can share about our history, I think that's the way we prevent this.
Yeah. And, you know, it's wild. Like, you know, you watch a lot of shows that, like I was watching this morning, my daughters are into Zombies, the Disney show, and like The Descendants. But there's one, the Zombies one, is they segregated the school between the zombies and regular kids. It literally had a sign as they walked in with a fence in the middle. It said zombies and then regular kids. And one of my daughters was just like, why would they treat people differently because they look different? I was like, oh my God, you have no idea. Like, those are zombies.
Yeah,
but
buckle up.
Let me teach you about what happened, you know, through American history, right? But kids don't feel that way. It's just like everybody's the same. It's you
Yeah.
learn this trait to do this for whatever reason later. But if anybody's out there watching or listening, how can they get a hold of you if they know anything about folks and corroborate those facts about what
About that
happened to
raid.
Jaime? Yeah.
Yeah. So email is the best way, Robbie@justicesteam.com. You can look me up on our firm's website. I'm there. I'm, always, around you. So anytime you need to get in touch with me, if you get in touch with Bob, that works too. But Robbie@justicesteam.com is the easiest way. We got a long way to go on this, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to find some very helpful information.
Yeah, right now it's just about having answers and letting people know what they can do. Well, let's talk about the process that you went through recently that you do a lot with is, whenever somebody loses a loved one under tragic circumstances and taken by very unnatural ways, what are some of the things that we should be treating those folks like, and what are some things that you have to do that people don't realize this is part of when you're helping people with those types of cases?
Yeah. So in a weird way, in my time at SLG, I think I just I don't know what, I got pulled in early on to some cases that were connected to me by family or friends and wrongful death cases. And I kind of just built a little bit of a niche for connecting to those cases. And it's really been that way ever since. And I think that the most important thing, and I try to walk into every single one of these meetings the same way. I try to focus on just really connecting on a human level. And one of the more recent meetings was with his family, and they asked me, "Well, what's the first thing you want to talk about? Where do we start?" was the question. And my response was, "Tell me about Jaime. Tell me about his family. Tell me about the human being that he was. Because if I don't know about who he was as a person, none of this matters. Right? I have to know who he was to be able to represent him in a way that really does him justice and his family justice." So that, it just immediately brought so much ease to the family. And you saw kind of this weight get taken off their shoulders, because it wasn't going to be some legal conversation. This was just going to be a human conversation. And we ended up talking about his family and talking about, the things that, their memories of him. And this is how I approach every single one of these meetings, is I just really try to learn about the family dynamic, the person that was lost. And it's really tough because you have to balance the ongoing process of grief, what this family's going through in that moment, they're grieving, with you're also trying to lay the foundation of a case. Right? There's early steps you have to take in an investigation, and you have to do certain things to be sure that you have the evidence that you need in the case. So you're kind of shepherding them through both paths. But just being real and really just trying to learn and not getting too technical, and just spending a good amount of time learning about the human being.
Yeah. Anybody watching or listening, if you're a lawyer and you're handling these types of cases, while you've probably done these similar cases before, this is the first and only time this family's ever going to go through something like this. Right?
That's right.
And you have to treat it that way.
Yeah.
You have to think of it that way. And what are some of those steps that you have to take from the immediate legal side of things to preserve that evidence? And then what are some things that you have to help the family with that most people don't realize that you have to do when you have a case like this?
Yeah, so letters of preservation, immediately getting those out, making sure that we've got letters of preservation on every single place that may have some kind of evidence that's going to be important in the case. Making sure that we get investigators out to canvass to get statements, witness statements. And then, with a lot of these wrongful death cases, this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but wanting to get, if an autopsy was done by the county in the coroner's office, okay, well, you have that first box checked, but potentially having a second independent autopsy done to have your own, expert, your own pathologist work through an autopsy, that's important.
And sometimes there's a race, they do it before they can ever find an attorney. I mean, this happens all the time.
Yeah. And one thing that people don't understand is that in that process, you're again, it's you're balancing two different things here, right? You've got a funeral that's impending, you've got cremation services, you've got a celebration of life, and you're trying to preserve evidence that you need for your case. So you want to make sure that you're not embalming the body. You want to make sure that you're giving whoever's going to do the autopsy, that doctor, an appropriate amount of time and the opportunity to be able to have the best shot at doing the autopsy correctly and securing that evidence.
Yeah, a lot of times, getting the deceased's vessel, their body, back across state lines or even international lines. These are things that you just don't. I remember when I was a young lawyer and had a case like that, I just had no idea that you had to go through the consulate to be able to do these things. I was like, wow, this is a whole different experience.
Yeah.
But how often, you seem to give open access to these families that need you. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think it's important. Every single one of the families I represent, really almost every client has my cell phone. And sometimes it's challenging, when you're getting text messages at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I saw you out, here at Justice HQ, and I saw you had a bunch of phones. I was like, well, we have so many phones. Well, there's actually evidence. It wasn't Robbie's not carrying burner phones.
Yeah, no, that was evidence. That was a client's phone. But you have to make yourself accessible, because if clients feel like they're just a number, right? You're going to lose that connection that you're trying to build. I go, I have breakfast with clients. I go, I'll have lunch or dinner, and I'll try to make a regular effort to meet with them, because I'm just trying to build the human connection. If we get to the end point and we eventually do get to trial, you're just
everything.
putting money in the bank,
Yeah,
right?
It's everything.
That's everything. So
you already know it so well, and then you know how to advocate better for them, and it's personal. Yeah. Well, Robbie, thanks for coming on. I know we have a lot of work to do immediately with Jaime's case.
Yeah.
And I know you have a bunch of trials coming up too, and having that balance. But anybody watching or listening, especially if they know anything about what happened at the cannabis farm that day at Glass House, reach out to Robbie. We're trying to make sure everybody gets a clear understanding of what happened before things could be fabricated. We've seen these things happen all the time, where there just happens to be no video and happens to be all the evidence is gone. That looks real bad, but
which is why we're trying to move as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody at the federal government's watching, just publish the
footage, the body cam footage,
publish the
warrant,
the judicial warrant. If I would say, if things are done accurately and just hand it over, and then that would
speeds up the process.
Be
a lot,
quick resolution. Yeah,
right?
it'd be done.
Right.
But that's what should be done. We'll see if that can be done. But Robbie, thanks for coming on. Always appreciate seeing you.
Thank you.
We talk every day, but
yeah,
seeing you in person, it's
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for watching or listening to this episode of the Justice Team Podcast on the Justice Team Network. Watch out to Robbie at justiceteam.com. It's Robbie with an I and an E and 2 B's, 1 R and an O.
That's right.
Thanks for
listening.
listening.
All right. Thank you.